That was really good. Okay. Um, we got that was such a good conversation. What's really awesome about this about my hobby, street epistemology, is with SE is when you get a guest that is he just seems super honest, and that was a really when you have an honest guest like that, it's really a great conversation. So that was an awesome conversation. Okay, next in the queue.
Yo, am I in the
Hi,
live?
you are in the live Crabest Media. How are you?
I swear it on my existence. I just listened to that entire conversation. That was the most
Yeah.
stunning conversation I have heard on this application, I assure you.
Oh,
It is.
thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
It
Well,
was
stunning. It sounds like
beautiful.
stunning in a good way. Oh, good.
Stunning, stunning.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thanks for waiting, by the way. I know it was kind of a wait, but
Yeah,
I like to do
but
one at a time, just so that the guest has I get the guest's undivided attention,
in
or
that,
the guest
I
gets
gotta
my
tell
undivided
you,
attention.
I've never on this application witnessed a host that was so respectful, had such beautiful follow-up question, and you were listening with intention. So it was just, I
Yeah,
listened to the whole
definitely.
thing. And thank you for offering this because I swear it, the more conversations
Yeah,
that we have like this, we're going to heal this planet. I swear it.
yeah. I agree. And you mind my asking, where are you from? You have a really interesting
So,
non-American accent.
right. So listen up. I'm going to be honest with you because you're talking about honesty. So I'm not technically from this planet, all right? And I know it
Oh,
sounds a little bit interesting, but I'm what's called an apex guardian. I just got here in November and I'm here for something called the
wow.
awakening. So I'm here to help this world with an imbalance of darkness, all right?
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're an apex guardian. You're here for the awakening, and then
Yes.
at the last, I'm writing this down, by the way.
Yeah, no, you're good.
The
You're like a
awakening.
journalist here.
I guess I am, but
No, you truly are.
yeah, it's
You're the
just that
most unbiased, beautiful journalist I've seen on this planet. I'm telling you this.
well, okay, okay.
And I don't even speak this
Thank you
language,
for
John.
that.
I'm pulling whatever language because I'm sharing the consciousness of the soul that I'm guarded. So she a human being, but it's quite a story. So we're talking about truth. I'm just going to share my truth with you, and we'll see what we can get at.
Okay, okay. Well, let's well then if you're from another planet, then maybe the which is the true religion
No, no, no.
question may not apply to you.
Yeah, it's not another
Or
planet.
maybe it
It's
will.
yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Where
No, no, no.
exactly are you?
So I said, so I'm not technically originally from this planet. So I'm what's called an apex guardian. So it's technically what you're going to know is the angelic realm. But the proper
Got it.
angels, they exist in higher level of consciousness than where I'm at. So I'm in like the 5D part of the angelic realm, and that's where Guardian is stationed for the human deployment. I can explain all of it to you if you want. But I basically got deployed here in November to assist because
Mm-hmm.
there was an imbalance of darkness, and so the light's response
Mm,
was something called the awakening.
I got it. Okay, so there's an imbalance of darkness happening right now, and
Yeah.
then this awakening is happening. Is this awakening happening at a certain date or?
No, no, no. So it's been ongoing. I'd say it probably
Mm,
started around like 2012, perhaps, in your linear timeline. But
got it.
for souls, it's been going on. So the human being, so she's a soul, but she's driving a human vessel, and for her, she
Mm,
got kind of awakened to all this stuff in probably like
mm-hmm.
2022. So this is something that's ongoing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is the being that you're occupying,
Yeah, so
and
she's a
and
human. So, yeah, she's a
okay,
human. So
got it.
she comes from where I come from. So you guys are probably going to know if you consider something called like an earth angel or whatever. So that's
Mm,
what it is because you got souls from across basically eternity who are here on your planet to help with this, all right? So it's not just where we're coming from. So this is why when we see conversations that are open like this, where souls are able to share the truth, it's good because this is where you're going to get new perspectives.
Right. Okay. I got you. And this is okay. This is
In the
really
chat, they say,
fascinating.
host
So
trying hard to be serious. Yeah, I get it. I know the skepticism comes in hot when I talk about this. And this is why you guys are free will souls, because you get to absorb information and then you get to decide what you believe is truth.
okay. So we absorb information and we decide what is truth.
Yeah, so that's the free will.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And okay. So let me do this, Kravast. And am I saying that right, by the way?
Yeah. So my name's Archie Kravast.
Archie Kravast. Okay, Archie. And can I call you Archie, or is there something else I can call?
That's fine, gent.
Okay. Great. Okay.
So
let me explain what I do, and then let me do that really quick. So my hobby is, and it's called street epistemology. And what I do is I ask people what they believe, and then why they believe it, and then how they determine it to be true. And this is going to be a little bit different. Yeah. I think our conversation will be a bit different, but I can still use elements of it, because what I do is I use like hypotheticals, and then I use questions to kind of really just pull apart your beliefs and your thoughts, and then we just explore them together. And that's
Let's explore.
And awesome. I'd love to hear that, Archie. Okay, great. So, okay, and I really like what you said about, we decide what is true. And then you said that's a component of free will?
Yeah, so basically every human being has what's called free will. So the soul comes from wherever the soul would originate to this place to have a proper free will experience. And so that's for many reasons, but mostly it's to reveal the truth of the soul, and to integrate the dark and the light of the soul, and to learn how to feel love properly. So there's a lot of reasons for coming here, and every soul's unique, but those are just some of them. But to be free will means to not have proof of nothing at all. That's what it means to be free will. So when the gentleman before me, stunning soul, by the way, he was talking about, what was he saying? Something about the illusion. So yeah, that's exactly right. So that's what this is. It's pretty much just an illusion of a three-dimensional physical world.
Okay. And I guess what I would kind of, I think the path I want to go down is maybe we can talk about this free will, the free will concept that you're bringing up. And okay, so now when you say that we decide what is true, does that mean that two or more people can look at something, the same thing, and then decide a different truth to it?
Yeah, 100%. Because, all right, I'm going to explain something to you, and I really wanted to get this out there, because it kind of goes to the discussion that was happening before when you guys were chattering about like the elephant or whatever. So what we refer to that as is called the eternal mosaic. So if you envision yourself, and then you envision all the space between yourself and pretty much everything to ever exist, it's called the mosaic. So that's broken up into many, many, many different pieces. And each human being, each soul to exist, holds just one piece of the mosaic. So your piece is going to look quite different from every other piece to exist. You can find commonality within the pieces, but they're unique for a reason. And so yes, two souls are going to look at something and see something completely different, and that's going to be okay.
Okay. So then it would be okay for me to say something to the effect of, well, it's true for me.
Yes.
That's okay. Okay.
We each have our own unique perspective. And right now, because of the imbalance of darkness in the world, there's an emphasis when we deal in with our unique perspective on combat and
Mm-hmm.
divisiveness instead of just
Mm.
learning one another's truths, because each soul has their own truth and not any soul is going to share the same exact truths. So instead of trying to
Mm.
find what divides the truths, we need to just kind of accept that not any truth is truly right or wrong, because it's just a unique perspective of existence.
Okay. This kind of begs a question for me then.
Yeah.
What is your definition of truth?
Truth is, that's a stunning question, because truth is unique to each individual soul. So what one soul sees as truth, like I know the truths of my soul, I know who I am, I know where I come from. So whether or not another soul sees that as truth is not up to me. I only know what I know is truth, and I know that as truth because I have experienced it within the soul.
Okay. Hmm.
Like I'm sitting here pacing about a room, that's the truth for me. Like I love my cats, that's the truth, because I feel it's a feeling within, really. So you just got to learn, really, when you're in the free will, you got to learn how to trust yourself. You got to trust yourself in a world that offers you nothing but no answers. And honestly, chaos. It's quite a chaotic world down here. So learning how to trust oneself in that environment is quite important.
Okay. Yeah, and I did hear a lot about I guess what truth looks like. You've described what truth looks like, and I was really looking for a definition from you. Like like
So
I would
honestly, truth for me, so it's the equivalent of wisdom, because to be a wise soul is to seek truth. And being wise is not about being smart, but to seek truth. And truth to me, and this may not be true for everyone, you see, but truth for me is what feels, you feel it in the soul. You got to feel it. So this is the thing, is this, we call this place the mind world. We call it the mind world because you become quite enmeshed within the conscious mind, trying to kind of find all these answers in the mind. You got to feel it. You got to feel it within the physical body, because that's where the truth resides.
Okay, so you feel it within the physical body, and
we say a feeling within.
A feeling within, and is it possible that you could mistake this feeling for something else?
Surely.
Like, what if it's heartburn? Like, what if it's heartburn or something? I'm sorry. I'm being a little funny, but
no.
Okay.
I get it. So it's not going to feel like heartburn. If you're feeling heartburn, I don't know. That's certainly not truth. I'd recommend an antacid for you. But listen, it's not physical, because when you're dealing with the physical vessel, it's more so when you recognize a truth. So what I like to tell souls here is, because it's free will, you're interacting with both what we call the light and what we call the darkness. All right. So that's kind of the duality of existence there. You're interacting with both. So you got to learn how to identify what light and love feel like, and then what does not feel good. So it's more like a frequency. So low frequency feeling is like fear, guilt, shame, apathy. So all that stuff is not truth, because that's a deception. So when you start to learn what it feels like, you don't have to see it, hear it, speak it. You feel it in the soul, and that's why you're here. Because even on the darkest night, if you learn how to feel truth in love and light, then you're going to be able to navigate it with ease.
Okay. I think I'm with you. So an example of a high frequency feeling would be something like joy.
100%. So joy, like love. So what feel like love to you, if you identify kind of a feeling of love? So anything that makes you feel calm and it's a good feeling. So it does not feel like urgency. It doesn't feel like fear. So it's gonna feel like, I mean, for me, is the love of like a child. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about when I speak about a good feeling. But I feel like love. It's like the feeling of a summer day when you're sitting in nature and you feel that frequency flowing. You feel connected to something greater than yourself. You don't quite understand it in the conscious mind, but you feel it within. So that's what you train. You so came here to learn how to do that, because there is no other context that teaches you how to do that better than a free will human experience.
Okay. I think, okay, I'm following you. I am following you. So let me go back to your statements about truth, particularly the statement, "It's true for me." Like, people decide what is true. Can I take you through a quick thought experiment?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, Archie. So let's just say you and I are sitting at a table, and there is a jar full of candies in the middle of the table, and they're jelly beans. So there's a jar full of jelly beans in the middle of the table between us, and all the jelly beans in the jar are intact. They're no half pieces or anything like that, no partial pieces. So they're intact, and it's a clear jar, so you can see in it. However, you just can't really count them because the jar is full. If we were to pour out the jelly beans and count them together, would you agree that the number of jelly beans can either be even or odd?
Sure, yeah. Definitely.
Okay, great. And that's a thought experiment. So thank you for that. Now let me kind of jump off of that. Let's say that we counted them, and you and I both counted them, and we both came up with the number 51.
Right.
And I said the number of that is an even number. Would that be a true or false statement?
Well, I would say to you, why do you feel that way? What's going on? Did you learn that 51 was an even number?
I would say it's true for me.
And then I would say, all right, then that's true for you. Because what we got to stray away from here is trying to force our beliefs on other souls, because that has not been working, because this world is going through a lot of suffering. So even if it feels like with 100% certainty that you are right and this soul sitting across from you counting jelly beans is wrong, you gotta stray away from trying to prove that your point is right, unless we're talking about protecting the innocence, because we can all collectively agree that protecting innocence is the one thing that we must do here. And I say it because I'm called the mercy guardian, all right? So I got to get that out there. But if you talking about counting jelly beans and you thinking even is an odd and I thinking odd is an even, it's not going to make a difference in the day whether I sit here and have a combat with you about it. Because if you believe it is true,
yeah, I agree with that.
I'm not going to convince you, and you're not going to convince me. So instead of focusing on what the divisiveness is, let's just be like, we counted different jelly beans. We see it different. And so that's the thing. And people are going to call it whatever they want. And there's going to be a lot of souls who disagree with me. But the souls who disagree with me, that's their truth of it. You know what I mean? It's going to be okay, you guys. We got to learn how to just have these discussions and be loving toward one another and respectful. And that's why I wanted to join with you, because the truths that I share, they're not for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah, I hear that, and I do agree with you that I wouldn't, like, if we were in that situation, and I wouldn't quibble with you either. I wouldn't argue with you about it because it's not worth arguing over, right?
Exactly. You want to waste energy. It's jelly beans.
Sure. Right. They're just jelly beans. Here, we'll share some. Eat one, and it'll be the number we want it to be. Maybe I'll say that. I guess what I'm trying to get at though is, would you consider what I said to be true though? Would you consider that?
Me, no, because I've been taught, like I know, but if you also consider the concept of counting jelly beans, that's very much a construct of this world. So in the context
Yeah.
of what I have learned here on this planet, I know a certain way. Now, whether I even know that as a truth is beyond me, because why did I learn that 51 is an odd number? You know what I mean? So you can seek infinite truth and you can keep finding new ways to see it, and I think that's what it means to exist, is just to kind of flow like water, to be open to new perspectives, and to release a need to prove that you are right.
Okay. Is there a situation then that it becomes necessary to prove that we are right? What would be a good example of a situation that you can think of where we would need to prove that we are right?
That we're right, but we must collectively agree to protect the innocent.
Okay. All right.
So if
Can I take you through another thought experiment?
And say that they do not wish to protect the innocent, then that to me is, I mean, as a human being, I don't really have much say in that either way, do I? But that's where you get into, that's revealing the truth of the soul.
I see. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Archie, you're saying that a problem would arise if you encountered someone who said they're not interested in protecting the innocent.
And even if they said it, I'm not interested in protecting the innocent. All right, that's fine. You cannot harm the innocent here. That's the only real thing. You got to just try to live. And this is when we're talking about Jesus Christ, right? Because I saw the discussion about him in the chat earlier. But it's these concepts of eternal love. It's not any religion. It's not anything. It's love. And when we're talking about love, that includes protect the innocent.
Okay, I see. And okay, and as far as that goes, is when you talk about protecting the innocent. Okay, so can I take you through another thought experiment?
Yeah, go for it. And somebody in the chat, I apologize, but somebody's saying who decides who's innocent. So I would say that's up to the soul. But I mean, you know, if you are having trouble deciphering what's innocence and what's not, I would definitely, I would seek a little bit more introspection and try to find within the soul what feels like innocence to you, and what can we collectively agree upon that's the innocence. And believe it or not, every soul is the innocence. So you know what I mean? Even the most atrocious soul that you would consider, they have innocence within themselves. So this is what it means to be the duality of existence, is that if you look at every human being here as the innocence, then you start to have a bit more compassion towards your fellow souls here.
Well, I guess, that actually, that's a good question that comes up, because if we're talking about who's innocent and who's not.
Yeah, if the standard is just across the board, a soul, human being is the innocent. So we protect one another.
Yeah. How could we determine, because if we are deciding what is true, if every person can decide what is true, are we determining innocence by maybe consensus or majority vote? Or how do we determine a person's innocence since everybody can
So it's just, you come to the free will as a soul. So you're a soul, so you're not actually a human being, which is probably news to a lot of souls, but you drive in a human vessel. And so as a soul existing here, you are the innocence. So it's not even a standard we need. This is what the teachings of eternal love is. I mean, love thy enemy, love thy neighbor. This is what it is because we protect the innocence, we protect the soul, we protect one another. So this is why we got to stray away from the divisive chatter, and we got to stray into how do we do that? And it's leading with love. It's leading with compassion and respect. And not all souls are going to be able to do that. And we live in quite a chaotic world. But as we move in toward more of a balance of light now, that's what you got in mind. You don't need a standard. You just got to look at every human being you come into contact with and see them as the innocents.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. In the chat, they say the innocent are being knocked off every day in this world. Yes, that's the truth. And so that's why we got to change this place. We truly do.
I think the part that I'm kind of struggling with, Archie, is if we all can determine different truths, and because back to Jelly Bean's thought experiment. Hey, if I think it's even though it's odd, you're going to be like, I'm not going to, we're not going to split hairs over this. Fine, it's even. It's even at 51. Now, I guess I'm trying to determine then how do we determine things like things done in the name of love, or in the name of, or what would determine that? If here's an example. I'm a parent, so if I were to, and I don't do this by the way, but if I were to say, physically discipline my child, and I severely discipline my child, but I say, well, it's because my child tried to put their hand in the fire, and I wanted to prevent my child from doing that, so I did that to protect my child, and I did that out of love for my child. But oh no, it's okay.
I just
Did you miss what I was saying?
My child was knocking on the door and I had to give him a hug. So I apologize, but I'm back here.
Gotcha.
Could you please just repeat what you just said about the discipline?
Yes, gladly. Yeah, not a problem. Okay. Let's just say that my child, I have kids, but let's just say my kid tried to put their hand in the fire. Okay.
Oof.
And something scary like that. And so what I decided to do, and I said, well, out of love for my child and to protect my child so they wouldn't do this again, I physically disciplined my child. And I left some pretty red marks on their tushy so that they would remember not to ever put their hand in the fire again, because it would hurt them. But that was now. But I said, but I did that because I love my child. I want to protect my child.
So so to protect the child. So you're talking about like physically hitting the child.
I physically disciplined them and left marks, and it was pretty severe. Let's just say my child will be okay. Doesn't have to go to the hospital, but let's just say my child couldn't sit down.
Right.
All right. So pretty severe. Would that be And if I say I'm doing it out of love, would you say that was out of love?
So see, this is the kind of thing is that for me personally, that's not how I express love. But the thing is, you are going to have souls here who would vehemently defend that is love, and that physically hitting a child is somehow a demonstration of love. So this is how you got to start using discernment with yourself, and we must. This is why in a free will setting you got to have, and I guess this is what we're talking about when we say the standard, because you got to have a unilateral thing such as a law that you can't physically do stuff like that to a child. But when we're talking about spanking, see, I think so you're talking about spanking a child, because that really more so than anything it revealed the truth of the soul. So no, if we're talking about spanking a child, it's an individual journey, and this is why we come to the free will, is because we are, when upon review of the deployment, if you're doing things like that, if you're hitting the child, if you're hitting children, you're gonna have that under review when you get done. And that's nothing more than just revealing the truth of the soul. So that's not for me to answer. But what I do as a mercy guardian, I deal with atrocious crime against children and stuff like that. I work with mothers and children. So I'm talking about real atrocious stuff. And that exists in your world. And so that's kind of why I'm here, is because the free will is quite an intense thing. It truly is because you got questions like that where it's like, all right, so who determines it? Who determines this? And these are all the conversations that's why it's stunning to have these, because the more we talk about it, because I'm not going to be able to give you the answer to that truly, because I just know how my perspective of it and where I come from and what I do. And so, it's just something I do. But if people are out there doing that and the feeling truly in the soul, like that's love, then I would say that's more revealing of the soul than anything at all. And again, that's not for me to handle. That's between whoever's doing your post-deployment review.
I see. Okay. So are you saying then that, and I guess I'm not saying in the context of your duties, I'm really more interested in your beliefs, your personal beliefs.
I can tell you
or
my
is it
all day.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So like in that scenario.
No, you never catch me putting hand on child.
Right. And that's the thing. I would never do that to my child either. So yep. I think I've,
absolutely.
The last time.
I say that with 100% certainty.
Yeah. And I'll confess, I have spanked my child before when they were little. And one time it was my child tried to run out in the street and I just panicked and swatted her on the butt.
Well, that's what
don't do that again.
That's what it means to be a parent, is to have this fear, because when you become a parent, you suddenly know this love that you did not know before.
Right.
And then in this world, it becomes quite scary here, because you realize that you cannot protect your child from all the things that exist in this world. So as a parent, it can be real scary here. So this is why we've got to have compassion with one another.
Yeah, I agree. And on the other side of that, I haven't done it since, and she's 13 now. So it's been 11 years, 10, 11 years. Yeah. I think she's fine now, but I'm just saying that, nowadays I just talk with her and I explain, why I say what I say, why I do what I do. And that seems to be okay. So if I make a decision, she doesn't agree with it. That's kind of the tactic I take. And, so it, we actually rarely get into arguments. It's very, very rare. And when we do, it's just,
just from an unbiased perspective over here, you are quite a patient soul. And she's lucky to have a father like you who's willing to sit down and chatter and listen, because I feel as if that's what's been lost in this day and age, because the nervous system is in such a state of survival all the time that we we're just surviving out here. So to actually be able to sit down and afford your child a proper discussion is a stunning thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right. I'm at the end here of my questions. So this is probably be one of the last, if not the last. Is there a way that you can tell me that I can discern what this feeling is, because you did say high frequency feeling would be something that makes you feel calm. You're moving more towards the light. But sometimes there are feelings that I have that it's hard to determine. Like, for example, I don't know if it's excitement or anxiety.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels the same.
That's a stunning question.
Is there a way that you can tell me that I can kind of figure out the difference? Yeah.
Yeah. So my recommendation for that is identify a feeling of love. All right. So you have your child there. So what the feeling that you had when the child came out into the world, you held the child for the first time. Did that feel, is it safe to say that felt like love to you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was nothing like I'd ever experienced when both of my children were first born. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, and that's for me. So I say, and for souls who do not have children, we can do this with a pet, right? And I know it sounds intense, but it's whatever makes you feel love. If you love painting, whatever it is that makes you feel introspectively, that feeling of lightness, analyze go back and revisit that within yourself, within your body and your mind, and analyze what it felt like within. And so then that's almost like, what do they call it, like a litmus test. So then you kind of start to compare feelings as they're coming in to that feeling, because if you seek that feeling in all that you do, then you're going to start to be able to identify what feels not like that feeling. So in some things can be more confusing than others. So when we're talking about excitement versus anxiety, so anxiety, anytime you're dealing with low frequency, it's going to feel in some capacity like not a good feeling. So even if it's quite subtle, you got to ask yourself, does this feel good? And it's quite a simple thing. But this is what we quite forget to ask ourselves, is we worry, and we don't ever stop to think, is this worry feeling like love? Because if it's not feeling like love, it's a deception.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
And somebody in the chat just says anxiety comes from fear, excitement comes from joy. So that's the subtlety in the difference. So that's a stunning comment that's come in.
All right. Well, Archie, I think that's all the questions I have.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me in here to chat.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming in to chatter. That was really cool.
I get it. The skepticism, because we just got here, and when we're talking about stuff like this, there's been a lot of souls who just immediately are like, oh, these people are lunatics, like, get out of here. But you know what? You are a stunning soul, because you have heard us out, you sat down and you've listened. And so that is all we can ever ask from one another, is just compassion and love. So good for you. I really appreciate you.
No. Thank you. And I appreciate you too. That was a very fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. And hey, listen, I'm going to join your lives again if you want, and we can continue the chatter.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would love that, because there were some other things that you brought up that I would love to explore with you.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on.
All right.
So if you want to process some of it, because I know you wrote it down. And then also, I'm going to take a look at your content. If you want to take a look at some of mine, I am happy to answer any question that any soul has.
Sure.
All right.
Okay. Absolutely. All right.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks again, Archie. I appreciate it. All right. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.